The 3D Dynasty Show on the Sports Gambling Podcast, brought to you by Shady Rays. SGPN is teaming up with Shady Rays for Shady May. Get 50% off your Shady Rays using promo code SGPN. Then go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/shady for your chance to win $500. We're also brought to you by the SGPN merch store. Just in time for the summer, the SGPN merch store is a new line of mesh shorts. Use promo code SHORTS, store.sportsgamblingpodcast.com for 10% off. Brad, looking like the bad guy from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, yeah.
Ronan, and we got some shade. So I want to start the show with a positive. Foster Moreau, he had lymphoma. His physical did not pass, and he ended up walking away from football for only a month. And so he medical cleared, and Saints honored their contract that they originally offered him. And he's a New Orleans Saint, and so that was a very interesting move. A guy that Derek Carr is very familiar with, and he goes to New Orleans with Carr. And I just had wrote up in my veteran trade targets Juwan Johnson as a target because they didn't have anybody else. But Foster Moreau might be a sneaky guy. You follow the money, and Juwan Johnson, he got kind of the restricted free agent deal. But Foster Moreau got some money, and he's from LSU, and now he gets to stay in New Orleans. So cool story there. Awesome to see him playing. John Mechie back in the field. There's a lot of negative storylines in the NFL, but it's good to see some good ones. Today we're going to talk about the AFC West. We're going to recap the off seasons. We got a special treat for everybody. We had a one-on-one interview with Zach Stevens, a beat writer for the Denver Broncos, and Brad was able to set that up. And I'll give you guys some tea, and you guys can get the full thing later. But he said there may not be done adding to this offense. It could be a piece out there that they may add. But he talked a lot about Javonte Williams, and he talked about how the offensive line and how the rest of this offense is gonna help Russell Wilson. And how it's going to look under, Sean Payton. So, Brad, anything to add before we get into the Denver Broncos?
No, I'm excited. I'm actually a little excited for the Denver Broncos now. After listening to him, he talked a little bit, like you said, a little peak. He talked about cautiously optimistic. They're a little guarded, and I get that. But after we got done with that interview, I was hyped. I was ready to rock. I was happy for some of my friends that are Denver Broncos fans. And I hope it comes to fruition for him this season. So
PFF gave their draft a B+, and they gave their offseason additions an A-. The Denver Broncos this offseason spent a lot of money. I talked to Zach about this, and I said, it wasn't just New Orleans Saints that were printing off money over there. Sean Payton must have been pulling the trigger, because Sean Payton's doing the same thing in Denver. They paid Zach Allen a ton of money. They got Michael Burton, a fullback, also was from the Saints that he's familiar with. Marquez Callaway also went to the Denver Broncos. Riley Dixon, a punter. Kyle Fuller, a corner. Tony Jones Jr., also from the Saints. Chris Manhertz, tight end, used to be on the Jaguars. Mike McGlinchey was a big signing. A lot of people kind of question that one because, everyone kind of looks good in that San Francisco quick pass offense. But, McGlinchey's out there, one of the highest paid tackles in the league, and they had to overpay to keep him from the Bears. Samaje Perine, he talked a lot about Samaje Perine, and you got Mike Clay's this is Mike Clay's projections up here, and Samaje Perine's getting quite a bit of work, and he's getting more work than Javonte Williams, which is exactly what Zach talked about. Ben Powers, a run-blocking mauler type guard, and Tremon Smith, a corner. Jared Stidham, Very interesting. Talk about a sneaky stash. Especially if you don't believe in Russell Wilson, Stidham got paid quite a bit of money to go there. And, the Move the Sticks talked about it. Like, that money speaks. And, Russ gave Russ a little bit extra of motivation. Then little Jordan Humphrey, also from the New Orleans Saints, goes over there. And then in the draft, they only had a few picks. Marvin Mims was the really only offensive player. Like Alex Forsyth in the 7th round as a center. But Marvin Mims, big addition to the receiver room. Then you have Drew Sanders, Riley Moss, and J.L. Skinner for the secondary. So, Brad, let's talk about these projections here. Mike Clay's projections.
Yeah, it's interesting to look at, right? You pulled on the one that is clearly the most obvious. I think to most people that can see the screen, if you're watching us on YouTube, that's at SGPN Fantasy Football, and that's Samaje Perine leading the team in both rushing attempts, rushing yardage, touchdowns, and receiving receptions. Like the whole shebang, Samaje Perine, Mike Clay seems to think he's going to be the guy. And it makes sense with Javonte Williams coming off that pretty devastating knee injury. We wouldn't expect him, just like most guys that are returning from that ACL, to really return to full form that first year after, right? We've seen it time and time again where it really takes a year of kind of recovery to get back into the swing of things. And like you said, there was a little bit of a hint, we won't say who, but a little bit of a hint of a running back addition to this team with a guy that the Denver Broncos apparently have been talking to before the draft and again after the draft. So we'll see if they do any kind of ads like that to spice that room up a little bit, because I do think they could probably use, and any team going in with Samaje Perine as the one is probably not ecstatic about that, if I'm honest.
Yeah, and it's all going to be how comfortable they are. And Mike Clay has Javonte Williams for 10 games, which means he's probably going to maybe start the season on the pup, or not play the beginning part of the season. And it could be a very J.K. Dobbins like season for Javonte Williams, where maybe he doesn't have that corrective surgery halfway through the season, but you don't see him hit the field until after the first maybe month of football, and then he doesn't really get up to full speed until October. And I want to point at the quarterback. So you have a top 12 Russell Wilson back in the QB1 territory. He's got him down for 3,894 yards, 24 touchdowns. That's not the crazy part. The crazy part is the 63 rushing attempts, 322 yards, and rushing touchdowns 3. So he is projecting quite a bit of rushing for Russell Wilson. As far as the attempts, 521. Last year, as far as attempts, he had
55 attempts for 277 yards last year. So it's not crazy to think that with a team that hopefully moves the ball a little bit better under Sean Payton is able to kind of up by 50 yards. I don't think that's huge. To me, it's the touchdown. The touchdown total is what's there, because if you think about what Russell Wilson did last year, it was not throw a lot of touchdowns. And to see him jump up to 24 from 16, and I think that's where really the kind of jump in production, because even his passing yardage is not really projected to be much higher than it was last season. So I think they're a little low, to be honest.
So let me ask you a couple questions. So Russell Wilson, would you trade, let's say 110 in a super flex league? You're looking at Will Levis, Dalton Kincaid, something like that, Zay Flowers. Would you trade that for Russell Wilson?
Yeah, I'm probably okay with that.
And then Javonte Williams, you're really kind of taking your lumps this year, hoping for a better next year. Are you paying 110 for Javonte Williams?
No, I think he's a very similar.
That's like Kendre Miller, Devin A. Chain, Zach Charbonnet at range.
Yeah, no, I'm not doing that. And mainly because I think there's going to be an effect similar to what there was with J.K. Dobbins this year. You were able to obtain J.K. Dobbins extremely discounted this season. And then you saw him on the back end of the season really, the second half start to kind of return to his old form. He didn't have that long speed. You saw him slow down and limp on those long runs, but he got that explosion back. And I think you're going to see a very similar situation here with Javonte Williams where, hey, right now I'm not buying him, but when he hits the pup and it's in season and teams are trying to figure out how to get their team, how to make their team better, really, I think matters. And that's when you're going to be able to buy him pretty cheap. Now, it's that time. It's that time to get back to our sponsors. I put on my shades from Shady Rays. I got a couple pair. I bought the wife a couple pairs, and I absolutely love them. Shady Rays is teaming up with us at SGPN for Shady May, not only to get you an amazing 50%. That's right. I said 50% off, but you also have a chance to win $500. Shady Rays has you covered from the sun to the slopes with premium polarized shades, customizable snow goggles, and much more. Shady Rays has durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures. I'll cut that out. And that's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses is backed by a lost and broken replacement. If you lose or break your pair, even on day one, they told us that they would send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. So wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have you back. They have your back long after the purchase. And for our international listeners, Shady Rays has you covered as well with shipping to Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the UK. So go to shadyrays.com and use our promo code SGPN for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Then take your receipt to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/shady for your chance to win the $500 Shady May contest. And like everybody, it's summertime. Everybody wants to flaunt their new shorts, right? You go outside, you're feeling nice and cool. And I'm telling you right now, you got your shades from Shady Rays, and now it's time to get a great pair of mesh shorts for the summer. And SGPN has just dropped a new line of mesh shorts, perfect for any summer activity. Look, we put a pool in last year, and I am pumped to put these shorts on and go hang out on the deck, soak up some rays by the pool with my Shady Rays and our new mesh shorts. So head over to store.sportsgamblingpodcast.com and use our promo code SHORTS for 10% off.
Don't forget about Mother's Day. Those blue light glasses, those aviators. You can definitely get some brownie points by dropping some Shady Rays in that Mother's Day gift box. So the wide receivers, everyone's playing about 15 games. No one's being traded. And Jerry Jeudy is leading the pack with 106 targets. Cortland Sutton, 95. Tim Patrick, 74. And then Marvin Mims, 31. KJ Hamler is essentially non-existent. Obviously, Marvin Mims is a player that you guys are paying. You're paying up. You're paying a mid-second round pick for in your Superflex leagues. You're paying a high second round pick in your one quarterback leagues. Expectations, you can definitely drop your expectations a little bit for these rookies, and that's a good example for one. I like Marvin Mims a lot, but I'm not going to expect him to do a whole lot this year unless maybe Cortland Sutton gets moved. Then you could see things change around, but then you have Tim Patrick there as well. But any thoughts here with, Cortland Sutton? I mean, he's pretty cheap, and he's getting 57 receptions, 772 yards, and 6 TDs. And this one would be wide receiver 43.
Yeah, I mean, I think these are fair projections. I also think they're kind of vanilla, right? I mean, it's like, okay, what stats did they have last year? And let's just give them around the same stats this year. There's really no projection here for me. And I think that's where I'm a little bit different on these. I think you're going to see a situation where think about last year. Kendall Hinton had over 300 yards receiving. Now, I know Tim Patrick wasn't in the picture last year. You saw him step up. You saw Latavius Murray catching passes, Melvin Gordon catching passes. They had multiple tight ends that were catching them. But this is a situation, this is a new coach. This coach has no bearing, no loyalty to Tim Patrick. So I don't know why there's this infatuation thinking that Sean Payton's going to come in and take a guy that has really not excited many people. Has he been decent when he's been on the field? Yes. But then he comes in and he drafts his second-round pick in Marvin Mims, and yet Tim Patrick is going to be the third receiver. I just don't buy that. I think Mims is going to be the third receiver, and I think Jerry Jeudy's going to see a little bit of a bump as well. I really think Russell Wilson's going to have a little bit more yardage than what is projected here. I think he's going to break that 4,000-yard mark, which is not crazy to think right now. And you're going to see some of those. I think that yardage from Tim Patrick is going to shuffle down to Marvin Mims a little bit, and I think Jerry Jeudy is going to be a 1,000-yard receiver.
Yeah, and he's got Russell Wilson for 16 games. So if Jared Stidham for 1, so you give him that 1 extra game, he pops over 4,000. So last thing would be Greg Dulcich. I think a lot of people have expectations for him that he could be a top 12 tight end, and he's cute. He's tight end 20. So that's a little bit lower than a lot of the Greg D fans would like to see. You remember the beauty days of Jimmy Graham, and people can get excited about that. Jeremy Shockey, Jason Witten, a lot of great tight ends under Sean Payton. Not expected here. A lot of that production is going to Tim Patrick and Cortland Sutton and the running backs. The running backs are getting, you have a combined 80 receptions to the running backs there with those 5 guys. So let's go on to the next team. And it's the Kansas City Chiefs. So, with the Chiefs, they're another team that had they had a good offseason. The rich got richer. As far as the offseason, they're free agents. They got Brian Cowart, Mike Edwards, Blaine Gabbert, Phil Haskins. They got Richie James Jr., kind of a sneaky little signing there. They're just getting the Giants receiving core from last year. Charles Omen Ihu. And Jawan Taylor is the big one to the offensive line. They lost both of their offensive tackles. What's not on here is they also signed Donovan Thomas, used to be the tackle for the Bucs. And then they got Drew Tranquil, linebacker from the Chargers. And then they have one of the youngest defenses in the league. They paid Patrick Mahomes. They've had to go young everywhere else. They got Anaduke Uzama, Kansas State, the edge from Kansas State. Rashee Rice, Wanya Morris, another tackle. They got Shamari corner. And then you have B.J. Thompson, Keandre Coburn, and Nick Jones. So a lot of defensive players other than Rashee Rice. And so looking at the projections here, first thing you see obviously is Patrick Mahomes is QB1. QB1 overall is what they have him projected to be. And then there's not really much to talk about with Mahomes. But the backfield, they have a top 24 finish for Isaiah Pacheco. What are your thoughts there, Brad, with Pacheco? Because he's someone that I've, kind of been telling people to sell this offseason.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. They didn't really add anybody to that room, right? I get they re-signed Jerick McKinnon and brought him back, and he's going to take a lot of that receiving work inside the red zone, like we saw him kind of scavenge some of those touchdowns later on, and really take some guys to fantasy championships. If we're honest, guys who had him on their bench probably ended up winning a couple games that they probably shouldn't have. But I think Isaiah Pacheco, it's Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to be in a lot of situations to score, and he's going to get the opportunity to bust that in. He's going to be between the 20s guy. He's going to be able to rack up that yardage, and I think that's a fair finish. But I do believe, to your point, he's an in-season sell at that point, right? Because the wheels are going to fall off for him eventually.
So this offense was pretty good last year. They were number 1 in points, number 1 in yards, number 1 in points per play, number 1 in yards per play, number 2 in third down conversion, number 2 in fourth down conversion, and number 2 in red zone scoring percentage. So they were good at football last year, and a lot of returning pieces. The biggest question marks were the running backs and the receivers. We don't really have to talk about Travis Kelce, who's also number 1. As far as the running backs, they have Jerick McKinnon at RB35. That's pretty solid. And, your zero RB guys can go and get them super cheap. But if you're looking for a, bench running back, I mean, these are two fairly cheap running backs that you can get right now, Pacheco and McKinnon. Pacheco's a little bit more expensive, but McKinnon would be a decent buy. And they have him at, as far as receptions with 43 receptions, 386 yards, and 3 TDs. This guy was on a tear at the end of the season last year. One of the most productive backs at the end of the season, him and Tyler Algier.
Yeah, I mean, they're affordable. Even though Isaiah Pacheco is going to be a little bit more expensive than McKinnon, he is still extremely affordable. And right now, if you get him, like I said, I feel like he's probably now currently a buy candidate before the season starts. And then you can move him in season to a running back needy type of team.
Yeah, and we want to make sure to talk to you guys about Talkify. Life is full of what ifs. So, what if you're trying something new when it comes to dating? Talkify is a new way to meet our other serious singles. And what if they could help you out with what you're looking for? Are you having a hard time meeting great people and trying to date? Why do you keep trying the same methods over and over as if you're trying to set yourself up for failure? It's time to say goodbye to swiping and bring back the human touch to dating with Talkify. Confidence is key when it comes to dating, but if you're struggling to find worthwhile connections, it can be difficult to feel your best when meeting new people. With Talkify, you feel confident when you're meeting someone new, and this person is specially picked just for you. Talkify is country's #1 modern matchmaking service that is designed to help you achieve relationship success. Their trusted compatibility specialists hand select successful and compelling candidates so you can date consciously and productively. Here's how it works. The Talkify matchmakers meet with you to learn about you and what you're looking for in a partner. Then they select and screen potential candidates to match with you. Doing background checks, video interviews, and asking tough questions that are a little awkward on the first date, they do it for you. From there, your matchmaker plans your date, introductions, handles all communications, creating a safe and stress-free dating experience. Talkify is committed to finding your match. 80% of clients meet their match within their first 12 dates. And right now, Talkify is offering our listeners 20% off when you become a client at Talkify.com/SGPN. That's Talkify.com/SGPN for 20% off when you become a client. Talkify.com/SGPN. All right. Well, let's get back to the receivers. Kadarius Toney, you can see Mike Clay doesn't know what to do with it. Kadarius Toney, he's going to have 50 receptions and 612 yards, 5 touchdowns. Marquez Valdes-Scantling's going to have 40 receptions, 725 yards, 5 touchdowns. And Sky Moore is going to have 48 receptions, 627 yards, 5 touchdowns. And Rashee Rice is going to have 35 receptions, 455 yards, 4 touchdowns. So all these guys are generally going to have about 140 fantasy points, except for Rashee Rice, 105. None of them are wide receiver 4s. Wide receiver 50, wide receiver 57, 58, and 84. And it could come differently. Like Kadarius Toney could have 3 or 4 weeks where he's the wide receiver 6. And then Sky Moore's got 1 or 2 weeks where he's a top 12 guy. But they don't think these guys are going to, either of these guys are going to finish as a top 49 player. Thoughts, Brad?
It's weird, right? You see all of them with 74 targets. Look, at some point in time, somebody in this squad has to emerge. Somebody, not named Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce's going to get his regardless. I'm taking my shot on Kadarius Toney, and I did in the draft. I made a trade. I traded out of a spot. And I think the early second round, I moved to the late second round or early third and added Kadarius Toney. I think the hype is around this guy. We've seen him. He's got the talent. He just needs to have a full season with the Chiefs to work, a full offseason to prep. And now they're saying he is the one. Now, there's a lot of people saying a lot of things about a lot of people right now. But Do I think MVS is some superstar potential waiting to break out? No. Justin Watson? No. Richie James? No. So now we're down to Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, and Rashee Rice. Look, Sky Moore was minimal playing time and I mean minimal playing time last year. We hope that Rashee Rice adds a little bit to that team, but as far as explosive plays go, Kadarius Toney is the guy. So I'm taking a shot on the guy, even though he's not necessarily he is, I guess, projected to be the highest because probably receptions, even though his yards are way down. But he's the guy I'm taking a shot on in this, and it would not surprise me if he is a top 24 wide receiver.
And the biggest thing with Toney has never been the talent. That everyone's seen it, and it's just been availability. And with the Giants, year one, the availability was not there. With the Giants, year two, not there. Traded to the Chiefs. It wasn't like he magically became, a model of health. He missed a bunch of games, but he did have more production when he was with the Chiefs last year than the Giants. Not much else with the Chiefs. I mean, you can take your shot on one of those guys and hope that you're right. It's difficult. Toney has question marks. Valdez-Scantling, question marks. Sky Moore, question marks. Rashee Rice as well, on top of being a rookie. All those guys are going to help Patrick Mahomes have a great season. We just really don't know if anyone's going to really they might spread the wealth out a little too much because Jerick McKinnon, if you look at it, those guys have 74 targets. He's got 56. So he's getting quite a few targets too. Who do we got next?
All right. Going to the Chargers.
Go, Chargers, go.
Yeah, I'll apologize for all the coughing. Apparently, I was not on my mic and I was on my computer. So another rookie mistake by yours truly.
Well, it's been rookie fever. So
Yeah, right.
Brad caught it. And so they've had a very, very interesting offseason. They've only had one addition, and that's Eric Kendricks as far as the free agency. One free agent. And their draft wasn't even that crazy either. They only had 7 picks. So Quentin Johnston. Then you have Tula Tuipulotu. Then you have Dawan Hanley. So Hanley's a linebacker. Tuli is an edge from USC. Darius Davis, speedy receiver from TCU. So they grabbed both TCU receivers. Jordan McFadden is a tackle from Clemson. Scott Maylock, and then Max Duggan from TCU. I don't know where the TCU connection is. Maybe it's Kellen Moore, but they went shopping at TCU this year. And so they got an A- for both. And then last year, and this team was pretty good to start the season, and then Justin Herbert got hurt, and they just really weren't the same. As far as their rankings, I got to take it a little bit with a grain of salt with what happened. They lost their left tackle. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams they were rarely on the field healthy together last year. And when they were healthy, Justin Herbert wasn't healthy. So it was just a really rough season for the Chargers, and probably par for the course for Chargers fans. So Justin Herbert, a lot of people are expecting a bounce back year. What are you seeing here, Brad? He's projected to be quarterback 8.
I mean, I get it. Projections, you try to be, kind of low on them. But with injuries, right? You talked about all this stuff. Justin Herbert hurt. Mike Williams hurt. Keenan Allen hurt. Not ever healthy really together throughout the season. And with all of that, Justin Herbert still threw for 4,700 yards. And now with the expectation that he's going to be healthy, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams coming back healthy, the addition of Quentin Johnston, the addition of Darius Davis, a burner, he goes down 400 yards. Like, it just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. I do like to see the touchdown uptick, but the 4,300 yards in a full season is not enough in my mind. So I do think there's some changes that need to happen there. I think this production is a little low in my mind. So I'm a little more excited about the offense as a whole here. Not having 1,000-yard receiver, I think, is likely probably not going to be the case. But I also understand you see the projection for Quentin Johnston pretty darn high for a rookie wide receiver at 715 yards and 5 touchdowns. So I just think it's a little low for Herbert.
Yeah, and you got some really, really good projections here for a lot of players. Austin Eckler projected to be the RB1 PPR setting. They're projecting him for 67 receptions, which takes a little bit from the other guys, but again, should add some yards to Justin Herbert. I'm looking at his rushing, only 202 yards. That's not a lot. That's not a lot. What's that? 20 yards a game. Herbert ran a lot more his rookie year than he did, last year, but part of that I think was due to the injury. He wasn't really running after that. Joshua Kelly is projected to be the number 2, and he's getting quite a healthy workload. Still not a lot for Isaiah Spiller. So guys like me who really, really went in on Spiller last year, that's another thing where it's hurting. But there is rumors that they could be in the market for a bigger back like a Leonard Fournette or Ezekiel Elliott that could come over there and give them a veteran presence with some of these young guys. But if not, Joshua Kelly is the second man up in this offense. He could be a buy right now, and you could get him for, seriously, if you were in a draft right now and you're sitting at 309 and like, I don't really like what's on here, I'll give you 309. You give me Josh Kelly and 406. Like you're not going to have to pry him out of someone's hands.
No.
Keenan Allen, I know he's not going to have that much longer as far as his career, but 125 targets, 88 receptions, 924 yards, 6 TDs. That's a solid season, and you could get Keenan Allen for very cheap. Mike Williams, another solid season here. It'd be, a top 25 finish. Very, very solid. And then Quentin Johnston, for a rookie, that'd be a very good season. If Johnston were to pull 715 yards and 5 TDs rookie year, that might be one of the top rookies in this class.
Yeah, for sure. And people look at that, and over the last couple of years are like, a measly 715 yards. Like, that's not even that good. But we got to put all these rookies in context. Not everybody is Justin Jefferson. Not everybody's Jamar Chase. Just keep that in mind. CeeDee Lamb didn't have that breakout season until last year. So,
yeah, and I think if you had Johnston and he gets 153 PPR fantasy points, you should be very happy because that's pretty good.
Think about it. He's going to be likely facing a nickel corner. Are they going to put him in the slot? Or are they going to leave Keenan in the slot and have him on the outside?
I think Keenan would play in the slot.
How are they going to play that? I think you can probably do a little bit of both, right? You can move those guys around a little bit, create some matchups. Keenan's going to, dominate the majority of the snaps in the slot for sure, though.
Yeah, and you look at Kellen Moore taking over as the play caller. This is a team that's going to run a lot more 3 receiver sets and a lot more fast-paced offense than what they're running with Lombardi. Then Gerald Everett, kind of a sneaky play down there. Tight end 15, kind of a Hayden Hurst, kind of a like last year. Probably can get 9 to 10. And last year, kind of Gerald Everett. He was pretty solid last year as a fantasy producer. He had some off weeks, but everyone really does unless you're Travis Kelce. And so he had some pretty solid production last year, and you're expecting it again. So last but not least, we go into the Las Vegas Raiders.
The Raiders.
All right. The Raiders have a new quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo, we were looking at it before the show, that the Raiders and Derek Carr and Jimmy Garoppolo both are 2 of the top guys at throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage. And part of Josh Jacobs' huge year last year was because of how many receptions he had. They were 22nd in rushing last year, Brad. I think they were 22nd in rushing.
Oh, yeah, 22nd. Yeah, sorry.
And he was the RB1. And so You're looking at 20 touchdowns from Jimmy G, 3,875 yards, QB 22. And they only have him playing 14 games because Jimmy G tends to miss time, and Brian Hoyer covering the rest. So thoughts on Jimmy G?
Yeah, I was hoping to get some stats in here real quick before we got too crazy, but has Jimmy G had 1,000-yard receiver? Has he had? I don't know that he has. I know Brandon Ayuk was 1,000 yards last year, but that was Purdy the last few games. Deebo Samuel the year before that, but I don't think he had 1,000 yards rushing. I think he was over 1,000 combined. So I don't know that this guy's ever thrown for 1,000-yard receiver before. And
Wow.
I mean, I know he's never had Devontae Adams, but do we really think he's going to throw for that many yards? I just don't know.
Well, I mean, Jimmy G's never thrown for, he throws for 400 yards and the receivers and running backs do the rest. And so we'll see here. I mean, he's got a pretty good group of weapons, similar to what, he had a good group in San Francisco. Josh Jacobs, he's a good receiving back out of the backfield. And then you have Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Hunter Renfrow, and then they have Austin Hooper and Michael Mayer at tight end. So with Jacobs, they haven't projected to be RB7. Jacobs is a guy that had a heavy, healthy workload last year. And they're expecting it again. You're looking at over 300 touches for him. Interesting that Amir Abdullah is actually second on this list as far as their PPR points. But Zamir White is someone that a lot of people invested in, hoping that he would take over as starting back this year. Do you think we'll see more Zamir White or Amir Abdullah this year with with Josh McDaniels, or is he going to continue to just run Josh Jacobs to the ground on that franchise tag?
Well, I mean, Josh Jacobs is going to dominate, and he's going to run him into the ground. And I mean, if you think about what Josh McDaniels has done, yeah, he typically has too, but Zamir White is more of that pound the rock kind of guy too. He's more run between the tackles. He is kind of not a mirror image, obviously, of Josh Jacobs, but that's his style. So, I mean, if they were going to implement a two-back type of system like he's done in the past, I think Amir Abdullah is more likely to be the one to see more of those opportunities because of his pass catching ability that really Zamir White doesn't have. Maybe Brandon Bolden could challenge for that a little bit, but I think I agree with the projections. I think some of the receptions are going to end up with Amir Abdullah. But I do, from a wide receiver perspective, think that, we talked about kind of those sneaky buys. I think Jacoby Myers is that sneaky buy right now. Like, you see him here, he's projected as the second wide receiver here. There were a lot of really solid weeks of production from Jacoby Myers in his time in New England, and I think you're going to see a lot of that. He's going to step in to be that true number 2 for the Las Vegas Raiders, and I think the deep threat that he provides, I think you're going to actually have some really nice, surprising production from him.
Well, and you look at Hunter Renfro's not far behind him, and, Hunter Renfro, he's always done well when Darren Waller's out of town, but Jacoby Myers comes in and takes over that slot role. So I'm interested to see how they use them, because both Myers and Renfro have traditionally played in the slot. And so how are they going to coexist running, playing on this in the similar, portion of the field in those lower short to intermediate routes? As far as the tight ends, you have Austin Hooper and Michael Mayer essentially splitting duties, having almost the same production here. A little bit more production for Hooper with, 20 more targets or 19 more targets and 12 more receptions, about 100 yards and 1 TD more. And then Michael Mayer is got, a tight end 34 finish. Austin Hooper, tight end 27 finish. Thoughts on that? I mean, I think people that drafted Michael Mayer early in the second round would be disappointed to see this. I think he goes in as a starter day one. I think he's just a better player. Austin Hooper, been doing this for a long time, but I do think they would go with Mayer. They used a pretty high draft pick on him, and Austin Hooper just hasn't done anything in a while.
Yeah, I mean, this is another one of those projections where it's like, I feel like all you did was kind of, and I know there was a lot that went into these, and I'm not trying to diss them or whatever, but it's almost a mirror of last year. If you think about what Foster Moreau and Darren Waller did together, they had about 800 combined yards and this and that, Foster. But the reason is because they were hurt at different times, right? So I think they're going to lean on one of these tight ends, and I do believe it's going to be Michael Mayer. I think he's just a better overall tight end, and I think he's going to be able to prove that in camp. He's going to come in, be the day one starter, and the bulk of those targets and receptions to the tight end are going to go to him. So I think it's going to be more, where you could say this is, what is that, maybe, 60-40 is what we're looking at from a target perspective. I think that's going to be reversed, if not a little bit larger. So maybe a 70-30 type of gap, and Michael Mayer is going to get the majority of those, in my opinion.
Yeah, and look at that draft capital really keeps you in the league a long time. OJ Howard and Austin Hooper hanging out there with Michael Mayer. All those guys had really good draft capital, were really highly touted prospects. So, Brad, the last thing I'll leave us on before we go to Zach Stevens is, make sure you guys are going in and checking out sportsgamblingpodcast.com. We got our rankings out there. We also got a ton of articles. We also got, this is a show that has a lot of different shows on this channel. We have the IDPs with Gary and the rest of the crew. We have Best Ball. And then we also have, our other Dynasty show, with Emerson as well. So there's a lot of content. We keep you guys busy. 9 shows on this one channel. So make sure you subscribe to SGPN Fantasy Football. As my son would say, smash that subscribe button. And then the last thing I'll say is, I saw a thing on Twitter today where I put a post up. Somebody commented a trade, and so I want to ask you, Brad, would you veto? I'm not sure if you're a veto guy or not. If somebody traded Jahmyr Gibbs for a third next year and James Conner.
So I have vetoed a trade before, and actually resulted in 2 people leaving the league, one of which was my younger brother because he was mad that I did it to him. So I think there's context here that you got to understand, right? Is one of the owners, not around? They come in every once in a while. They're not very active, right? If that's the type of situation, yes, I would absolutely veto that because it's for the better and the longevity of the league. If both teams are active and they're on the message board all the time and they're making transactions and their lineups are set, hey, look, good job on you for getting the dude to take a really bad trade. So I think as a commissioner, you got to understand where your league is at and sometimes make those tough decisions. But most of the time you want to just kind of leave it be. And this is where you smash the gifts of the dump truck throwing all the garbage out and a dumpster on fire, whatever gif you want to throw out there to let them know that it was a complete garbage trade, because it is. But I do think it matters on whether or not the activity of those owners, where that's at in your league.
Yeah, my buddy, shout out to my buddy Greg Kellogg from the Fantasy Football Hall of Fame. He was giving me a hard time about this one, and he said, hey, there's not a lot of people that have gotten actually been good from the 102 spot, and at the end of the day, it's all projection, it's all subjective, but dude ended up paying, $100 for a ham sandwich. You could, I'm running a poll right now. You could get James Conner for the 207, 208. And, if you wanted James Conner for Gibbs, that's fine. But you can get James Conner plus a first next year, or first this year, not a third. And so you're really hurting your team when you take your team and collect all the assets together and treat them as a bank account. You just lost money. And so that's one of your more valuable assets, and you just sold it off at a pawn shop instead of going and actually getting full price for it. So, but we're going to get to Zach Stevens. Can you tell everybody who Zach Stevens is, Brad, before they get into it?
Absolutely. So Zach Stevens is the beat reporter for the Denver Broncos. You can find his work at thednvr.com, and he is on Twitter at Zach Stevens DNVR. He is the official beat reporter for the NFL for the Denver Broncos. So tune in. We hope you love it.
All right. As always, good luck this season.
Cheers.